Would you like to be the bad guy? Crush your enemies? See them driven before you? Hear the lamentation of their women? No, of course not. You walk the righteous path, my brother. But what about something in between? An intriguing sales pitch often employed by Pattaya travel agencies, and something utilized very well by opposing force developer Gearbox Software, and not so very well by Birkin Denicharan in... well, let's not dredge up the past too much for now. What is Half-Life Opposing Force? OF is a 1999 first-person shooter developed by not Valve, as mentioned, and is a spin-off from the first hyper-successful game, capitalizing on the Half-Life setting and lore established in the very safe, very methodical laboratories of Black Mesa. Before Valve became significantly guarded around their prized franchise, that a full decade plus would pass between the episodic release of a 4-hour game and a VR prequel, resulting in Redditors galore cooming their Neon Genesis Evangelion boxers every time someone makes a Valve can't count to 3 Reddit Gold certified wholesome chungus joke. The fertile land of spin-offs was bountiful, bringing about such beautiful products as Half-Life Mall Cop and Half-Life Sapphic Roommates. I want to discuss what made Opposing Force a good spin-off and which elements could be yoinked into a hypothetical sequel. But first, a quick synopsis. I won't do a play-by-play recap into the minutiae of Opposing Force, as that would mostly revolve around gunning down an endless amount of Gachimuchi enthusiasts, Race X, Shock Troopers, and Voltigors. Why are you everywhere? Opposing Force has you take the role of Corporal Adrian Shepard, no relation, a member of the HEECU, which were depicted in the original game as having been sent as both cleanup of the undocumented alien sent creatures, but also to cover up the incident by means of bullet-delivered NDAs to the Black Mesa staff at large. Worth mentioning is that Opposing Force is neither determined to be canon, nor stated to be not canon. A lot of the newer elements introduced in the spin-off is simply never mentioned or included again in the sequels, but the destruction of Black Mesa by a thermonuclear device is considered canon by writer of the sequels, Mark Laidlaw. And he does refer to Adrian Shepard as a Schrödinger's cat, either implying that he is neither canon nor not canon, depending on whether or not the G-Man may or may not have a use for him, or in reference to him destroying things when his owner isn't looking. You are Adrian Shepard, and he is a Marine Special Force operative, or at least soon to be, trained by the way of having a drill instructor verbally abuse you for being from Texas.
Texas! Holy cow! You know what comes from Texas, don't you?
A Marine Corps stable, and surviving harrowing training ordeals such as being shot at point blank, being shot at from distance, and wishing you could shoot yourself in-game, rather than suffering another second being manhandled by the janky rope mechanics. I don't know which Gearbox summer camp nitwit intern developed this fucking disaster of a vertical movement mechanic, but I died more times to rope than I did to the Gene Worm last boss, and I had to cheese the tutorial rope section to pass. Suddenly, alien colonial marines make so much more sense. Deployed alongside your jolly troop of jarhead stereotypes, we witness a quick reenactment of Black Hawk Down, but instead of facing off in a pitched, desperate defense against SNA militants, everyone dies, and you are dragged away to relative safety by a Black Mesa scientist. Without wasting much time, it is determined that the best course of action is to exfiltrate New Mexico as fast as possible, undoubtedly a lifelong dream for many of its residents, but mostly due to the considerable levels of FUBAR in Black Mesa, arguably even before the aliens invaded. Worth noting here is the radio call from the officer as you enter the room overlooking the extraction zone.
Come in, Cooper. Do you copy? Forget about Freeman. We're abandoning the base.
We are still at the very beginning of Opposing Force, but in the original Half-Life, the same call is heard at the very end of Chapter 12, which marks the end of the involvement of the HEECU in the gameplay. Due to our EB nappy time at the beginning of the game, we never actually received any specific orders related to the Black Mesa staff, nor to Dr. Freeman. We see one instance of a scientist being brutalized by a HEECU 2, and a few Black Mesa staffers clearly afraid or disconcerted by our presence.
I don't know what's worse. You soldiers under orders to silence the facility, or these vile aliens.
But since we seemingly slept through most of the OG game's chapters, we never witnessed any war crimes nor commit any ourselves, giving us ironclad plausible deniability, which would have been great had the world not subsequently ended a few years later. Bummer. We make our way to the last chopper out of Black Mesa, our purity mostly intact, but then G-Man. It seems our mysterious mutual friend with Dr. Freeman has other plans for you, and you are subsequently left behind to mull your career choice. Searching for an alternate escape route, we run across the Black Operations and learn of their plot to cover up the entire Black Mesa incident by shooting everyone. Oh, what a joy to be a Fed in the times before smartphones. This is also where we see our close proximity to Freeman. Entering the teleport chamber in the Lambda complex, we catch a whiff of Gordon's glutes as he enters the worst portion of his game. Just as a side note, if you are quick enough, you can follow through the teleportation orb, but rather than arriving in Zen, you mercifully fall through the endless void, avoiding the interloper chapter by the way of temporal paradox. Instead, you make your way through parts unseen in the original game of the Black Mesa complex, revealing that the highly professional staff were conducting more experiments than previously revealed. Opposing Force also distinguishes itself by a much larger weapon selection, and even a progenitor or prototype of the gravity gun in the Barnacle Tentacle Grapple Gun. Try not to think where your hand is. Soon, you discover the Black Ops' true plans for the ultimate cover-up, a thermonuclear device in the back of a Toyota Hilux. Disabling the device, you proceed further through the facility, only to see the G-Man once again foil your plans by reactivating the warhead. With Corporal Shepard being impeded by a chain link fence, you have no choice but to continue further into Black Mesa with the 60 kiloton Sword of Damocles ominously dangling above you. As luck would have it, however, Gearbox ran out of money and the very last level is upon you. Being forewarned by a Barney sounding very clearly bored out of his mind, you learn of a massive beast heading your way.
Listen, you've got to get down below. There's something coming through and it's the nastiest looking thing yet. I've got some weapons I've piled up in here. You better take as much as you can carry, 'cause I think this is it. Good luck, Corporal.
Being birthed from a most scuffed looking Stargate Gates, the Gene Worm is the final boss of Opposing Force and quite a formidable foe, capable of staying very still while you systematically sap each of its eyes with some very conveniently placed turrets and then fall to your death courtesy of rope. Defeating the Gene Worm at the very last moment before the nuclear warhead would have gone off and killed it anyway, the mysterious G-Man yanks you out of being atomized directly into his Lolita Express, where you are informed of his admiration of you.
I admit I have a fascination with those who adapt and survive against all odds. They rather remind me of myself, if for no other reason. I have argued to preserve you for a time.
You are effectively shelved, showing both the G-Man's ever-increasing network of agents, as well as the vast amount of power he wields for his esoteric employers. As shown, the conceit is the idea of being on the other side, privy to the operation of the previous game's enemies. The HEECU were imparted a fair bit of personalization through the world building and the few conversations we overheard.
All I know for sure is he's been killing my buddies. Oh yeah, he'll pay. He will definitely pay.
And Corporal Shepard provides an excellent vessel to experience even more of this. Opposing Force follows the same fundamental narrative guideline established in Half-Life of leaving the protagonist's honest reaction to your interpretation. A bad spin-off might overreach on the lore, simultaneously being too distinct from the OG setting while also tying itself too closely to the original game's story and attempt to steal too much of the spotlight.
We're going to Borealis.
Nope. Opposing Force sticks to the concept of Half-Life 1 and gives us more of what the people enjoyed, exploring Black Mesa, the aftermath of the Black Mesa incident, and the Zen creatures. Now, I'm well aware that an Opposing Force 2 or similar spin-off set in the Half-Life 2 setting is putting it mildly, the most piperous of pipe dreams. Valve hasn't completely denied the idea, but it's been some time since the last comments regarding OF or Adrian Shepard. But likewise with the HECU faction in Half-Life 1 clearly being bad guys, but also being the lesser evil compared to another antagonistic force, we have an equal, perfectly opposing force with ample amounts of personalization very much present in Half-Life 2.
Lamar!
We're of course talking about the Metrocops, or the Civil Protection, ubiquitous in City 17 and lore-wise still only human beings, voluntarily having joined the Combine Overwatch as collaborators.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to join Civil Protection just to get a decent meal.
The lore of the Combine Interdimensional Empire is very interesting, and I do recommend consuming endless amounts of YouTube videos detailing them. But in short, the true Combine Overlords are absolutely not human. They're not even from our dimension, and the subjects of the Combine Occupation Force currently sucking Earth dry of our delicious bluefin tuna are on a sliding scale from completely human but in cool looking uniforms to enhanced but still somewhat human, all the way past transhumanistic alien augmentation to something completely inhuman mukbang creator coded. If you're looking for a comparable starting point, a faction that gives us insight into the enemy's operations without threatening to unveil too much of the vast interdimensional mystery, allowing you to play a civil protection officer is where the source is at. The Metrocops and the HECU, even without taking the spin-offs into account, are the enemy factions with the most personality imparted to them. Unless you count Lamar, of course, which... why would you do that? I mentioned opposing force having us be in the bad guy faction without us necessarily being a true bad guy. Corporal Shepard is never forced into committing any war crimes at all. Stay on the video, Hearts of Iron enjoyers. And there is basically zero benefit to shooting the Barneys and the Einsteins you encounter. Their loot table is horrendous. Fundamentally, Valve wanted the spin-offs to show Black Mesa and the Black Mesa incident specifically from multiple perspectives. Circulating moral choices as a lawman operating in an occupation is just outside the scope of what the Valve spin-offs historically have been, and presumably you could just play Disco Elisha. Choose a faction where there is at least some moral ambiguity. Being a Black Ops explaining your case for nuking 3% of New Mexico at The Hague might be too tall an order. Then choose an incident central to the primary game series with multiple layers. For instance, be a Metrocop during the uprising and destruction of City 17 in Episode 1. It isn't too far-fetched to imagine certain civil protection units seeing the hegemonic superstructure collapse in front of them, quite literally by the end of Episode 1 even, turn on the remaining Combine transhuman soldiers to escape with their lives. Also, it is always good sense to put some distance between your hypothetical game and a game where you play as a true bad guy. Oh, say for instance, Hunt Down the Freeman. We wouldn't want to copy too much from that game, would we now?
The aliens are coming! We've been compromised!
Let it out, Corporal!
His hair looks like Hiroshima.
Opposing force understands that it is but a humble spin-off and does not try to steal the narrative spotlight from Freeman. We are a tiny hate-dodging fish in a very interdimensional pond, and the goal shouldn't be to butt in on Freeman's storyline nor to match it in its grandiosity, but to experience the ripples, effects, and aftermath from another perspective. The same way that opposing force shows the tentative collaboration between Adrian and the few surviving Black Mesa staff and HECU stragglers also left behind, fighting against the two larger looming threats of the Zen forces and Black Ops. A Metrocop protagonist is the opportunity to showcase a narrative navigating between the various factions during this watershed moment. Would we stop and help citizens and rebels fight off headcrabs, zombies, and mind-broken Combine forces, or just skedaddle as fast as possible to save our own hide? This would also further clarify the delineation between Gordon Freeman, one-man army capable of assaulting the Earth headquarters of the Combine single-handedly, and everyone else occasionally capable of dying to a headcrab, while everyone else, Combine Overwatch volunteers included, scramble to just survive. Freeman is crowbarring the very heart of the Combine occupation, at least one of them. Give us a heavier focus on surviving through squads, teamwork, and deadly coordination.
Did you see that one, Corporal?
like what was clearly intended in the OF tutorial. Leave the solo heroics to Freeman and Alex. We need our medics, our engineers, our heavy gunners to even stand a chance against both the Zen life forms and transhuman combine elites. In opposing force, your AI bodies are not too intelligent, possibly a brilliant meta reference to traumatic brain injury rates in the Marines. Bravo, Vince. Your squad will get stuck in a loop, get stuck on the stairs, get stuck on the very air itself. And given how big a part of the tutorial introducing your various comrades was, it's very disappointing how useless they end up being in most situations. They are great backup in a gunfight, if you can get them to set gunfight, that is. Unfortunately, you just kinda end up feeling like discount Freeman a lot of the time. You have to do everything, kill everything, push everything, make us feel like our new civil protection bodies provide actual value, that being part of a highly trained team is indispensable to progressing, rather than annoyance at cajoling the crayon-eating knuckle draggers from one specific point to another specific point. Have more open maps where multiple allies prove important in laying down some serious firepower. Have engineers open doors to high grounds and turret positions. Make City 17 dangerous for everyone who is especially not Freeman, and take the opportunity to show even more of the city. Opposing force showcased more of what made Black Mesa laboratories interesting. Their wanton experimentations with Zen, the hazardous conditions of the facility, and the insanely questionable methods of storing and disposing of boxes. City 17 has such a dystopian, oppressive atmosphere, not because of the alien panopticon lording over our every breath, but because of its position in Upper Silesia. There is a reason why Alex took place in the city. The interest in City 17 is palpable, but since its destruction, only prequels or spin-offs could possibly show more of it. A spin-off is, after all, like revisiting an old friend, but climbing through his unlocked bedroom window at night rather than walking through the front door as usual. This does finally, however, bring up quite the M40 field protective gas mask clad elephant in the room. Should Adrian Shepard be the protagonist in this theoretical and admittedly completely unrealistic spin-off sequel? So between 2006 and 2007, a spin-off referred to as Ravenholm, Return to Ravenholm, or Half-Life 2 Episode 4 that would have featured Adrian Shepard as the protagonist was in development by Arcane Studios. Ultimately, Valve decided that there was no more content revolving zombies that would be interesting to pursue in their franchise. Most likely due to Shaun of the Dead perfecting the zombie fiction genre. Citation needed. All this to say that Adrian Shepard isn't permanently iced or voided or considered completely non-canon by the big boys at Valve. There is a clear path forward, and given the amount of spatial flex that G-Man has, it's easy to see how he could plant the former military man in the position of a Metrocop, especially as it is canon that Resistance members such as Barney Calhoun have managed to infiltrate the CP ranks even without the assistance of the top G himself. Now, two reasons against having Adrian Shepard return. Firstly, with the risk of evoking memories of Hunt Down the Freeman too much, you could save Adrian Shepard as a potential Freeman replacement for G-Man, as Gordon's employment status is quite up for debate at the moment. It seems almost a waste to use Adrian as just a member of the Civil Protection unless you heavily involve G-Man in the narrative, which is always a great opportunity given his propensity for involving himself. But one of the major issues with Hunt Down the Freeman, among the hundreds of issues,
Black Mesa,
is how often they feature G-Man as directly involving himself to move the plot forward. G-Man is present in opposing force. He helps Adrian survive a Black Mesa OSHA violation, keeps him from exfiltrating the facility, rearms the nuclear warhead, and finally puts Adrian in stasis. It wouldn't be totally atypical to feature him heavily in a spin-off. If Valve was to envision a spin-off that featured the G-Man, Adrian Shepard would indeed be the perfect protagonist. He is already entwined with the big guy, but if you want to further cement the distinction between Freeman and basically everyone else, you don't allow a character as important as the G-Man to involve himself too much at all, let alone with a character who is not even the main guy involved with the main plot. I see more merit in focusing on a new character to take up the mantle of the opposing force. Not that it means that G-Man can't have any runtime, but the more focus is on the faction interplay, the admittedly self-imposed between a rock and a hard place that the still human collaborators find themselves in, rather than the heavier lore of the advisors, the Borealis and the G-Man, seems to be the optimal play for a shorter spin-off. Secondly, Gabe Newell, as plans for the opposing force spin-off was spun together initially, wanted a Rashomon-esque structure specifically, telling the same story from different perspectives as I mentioned earlier. Adrian Shepard is kinda an A-lister now. He wouldn't just be another perspective like how he and Barney were during the original Half-Life era. He is more deeply embedded in the Half-Life mythos, where the original concept of the spin-offs were more in line with presenting the perspective of a bystander. He wouldn't be a bystander, but a chess piece placed at the right place and the right time. Alright, that was a video. Do you think that Valve should return to the shorter and less impactful spin-off game? Obviously, no other sub-developer will be allowed to touch their franchise in any official capacity nowadays, but surely a smaller Valve team could throw something quick together, something short, something fun, a great return to Half-Life. Maybe following a rebel, a civilian refugee, Lamar. Put down a comment with your ideas. Like and subscribe for more, and support links down in the description, Patreon and all that jazz. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.